Hello and welcome everyone to our first ever Writer Day. My name is Neveli and I'm the CEO of Ritan, and I will also be the host of this evening. So a lot of you have asked why 30th of March and why Writer Day. So it's very symbolic. Some of you may have heard the story about brown M&Ms. And this is one of the details that was marked on Van Halen's artist writer as one of the things they do not want to see in their backstage. In 1980, on 30th of March, unfortunately, there was a performance in which the backstage had those brown M&Ms present. And this was also the day that the whole stage crashed, because another detail that the organizer had missed was the weight requirements. So this is why, through this story, we have chosen 30th of March to be the Writer Day, to embrace and emphasize the importance of communication and collaboration in our industry. And probably a lot of you feel that this crisis is like a suddenly crashed stage. We never expected this to happen. So you might also ask us, who are we and why are we doing this? So we are Redline, and our mission is to provide live industry specialists and professionals easy, fast, and clear communication around artist writers. And our team is a firm believer that you have to create the change yourself. So you have to contribute in making the industry, or even maybe the world, a better place. And talking with different people from different cultural backgrounds who are going to be sharing their experience this evening is something that you can hopefully enjoy, and something that can give you a spark of going and doing something on your own, initiating something on your own. What have we planned for you this evening? So we will have 3 panels. The first one will talk about artist development through live mediums, so live streaming, and the advantages and disadvantages, the difficult parts and the nice parts about it. We'll also be talking about online concert productions during COVID-19. We will have amazing people talking about the productions they have made lately and how did it go. And last but not least, Reshaping the live industry is all about talking about these business models that we have currently for live streaming, for instance, whether this will be used after the crisis, and how can we prepare so that we would have future business models that would help us to survive if another crisis would to be happen. So I hope you all enjoy this evening, and we will see you in a bit. Welcome, everyone. We are here at the Artist Development panel. I am so grateful and lucky to introduce to you 4 amazing people that we have here during this evening. So first of all, thank you so much, Kausar Kavami, for coming here. She has worked 20 years in the music industry. She's the founder of Geist Agency, a boutique agency in Berlin, and she supports the Association for Electronic Music as an advisor. And of course, she's a cultural ambassador for electronic music on this earth. So welcome, Goli.
Thank you.
So second of all, we have David, a very experienced licensing and international manager at Unison Rights. So he will be our intellectual property lawyer talking about copyrights. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
We have Mika, who has worked in the industry for 10 years. My good friend. He is also the founder and CEO of Venue, a super, super cool platform to crowdfund concerts and events so that fans could help out their favorite artists. And he has actually been very active. So he founded also Quarantine Sessions, quite as one of the first people to do this sort of live streaming. And actually these episodes gained over 120,000 people watching it. So that's pretty big. Welcome, Mikael.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we have Mike, who has worked on different with different big artists, really from Britney Spears to anything else, and from that experience you also founded your own platform, Rockstream Live. So welcome, Mike, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So today we are here to discuss different topics around artist development using these live streaming platforms, and to talk about how artists, especially during this crisis, could use these platforms for their own good. So we are really dependent on digital mediums, like we were dependent before. I mean, we have digital labels, all of the marketing for artists, and like most of the artist development was actually going on in digital platforms. But I think a year ago, none of us would have thought that we would have this sort of a situation in which artists cannot meet their fans. Literally, even like meeting with fans would be put into this sort of like digital cube, or like this sort of consumption that we have today, which is so much like more different than what we used to have. So what I would like to start off with is actually, you are all from very different backgrounds, and how do you think that the live music industry has been reacting to this situation and to these new business models, such as live stream platforms? Like, how has the live industry been adapting to it, actually? Goli, could you go first?
I think it really depends on the artist. The artists that I take care of, they're all really about the tactile experience. None of them have been doing live streaming. They just don't, they're DJs because they want to have that experience in a room, loud music with other people. And none of the people that I'm personally representing have, gotten into the live streaming world. So I'm probably the worst person to ask in this round. But I do think that, artists, for different reasons, they just jumped on this live streaming thing, not to lose touch with their fans. They a lot of them were bored. A lot of them wanted something to do. A lot of them were just exploring. A lot of them got really bored of it after they did a few live streamings, and we're getting at a point where, there's like these festivals who are selling live streaming tickets for a lot of money. Honestly, for me, it's not, maybe I shouldn't be saying this. I would probably not pay to see a DJ play a DJ set, because it's a DJ experience really belongs in a club with people, sweating, climbing on top of one another. A live band with a production is a different story. I can see, the value in that. But like I said, I'm probably not the best person to ask on this round.
Well, thank you anyway for sharing the experience. I think you're actually quite correct in this topic. If we're talking about electronic music, then it's all about the feeling that you get when you're out there in the venue. So it's I can't specifically say it's very much different from when if I would go and listen to my favorite rock artist, for instance, but I can understand what you're trying to say. But for instance, Mike, you've been doing this platform and you have hands-on experience both from actually the being a roadie with these artists and now doing a digital product. So how do you feel that the industry is adapting to these new sort of platforms and these business models?
I think it's very difficult for some artists to be able to navigate into it. You have many artists who have gone on to Twitch and YouTube who have had very good success in doing that. And you have some artists that need that feedback directly from the room. A lot of the older artists, especially in the rock acts, need that physical feedback. It's that same thing. I can't play to an empty room. I need to have some form of sustenance of fans there. I need to know that I'm actually making that connection. And that's one of the most difficult things to accomplish in any platform is how we make that physical connection between the fan and the artist. It's not perfect. I'll be the first one to say that. Even founding and operating and owning the streaming platform, nothing takes it back to being in that live performance. There is no greater feeling from that as an artist being on stage and hearing the crowd, and there's no greater feeling than being on the crew to feel that as well. And same thing for the fans and the audience who can bounce that energy off of each other. I think with COVID, we've come full circle in understanding that we need to look at different avenues for revenue generation, different avenues to do this. Pay-per-view events have been around for a very long time here in America. Literally HBO, was started off of that. Pay-per-view was started off of that, off of wrestling and sports events. And it's only a matter of time until artists are more comfortable, more perceptive at doing it. Most mainstream artists have produced tour DVDs before, some that are on digitized platforms, some that are physical, still recorded DVDs. So this is not really something new that we've been doing and going about. It's a different model than what a lot of artists and a lot of agents and managers are used to seeing. And it's also just something that's difficult to navigate. There's a lot of platforms out there, a lot of different abilities to do it. And it just ultimately comes down to the preference of the artist and what that artist wants to accomplish for their artwork.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Mikael, from doing these live streamings and actually being there with this artist platform, way back, way before the COVID, let's be honest now. How do you feel about these new business models and how is the industry adapting to those?
I think at the very beginning, back in March last year, it's been quite hard to monetize, first of all, the live streams, because no one really knew what the COVID was and how long it's here to stay. And everyone thought that, okay, we can shut down for a week or two and just take it easy for a while, and then we're gonna get back to full schedule. But with time, and no one wanted to pay for tickets for ticket to watch a live stream. And as much as some artists had very good ideas, and they pull off very great looking shows, live stream shows, no one really wanted to pay for them, because it's just, someone told me, it's just like watching on YouTube, like live video from live concert on YouTube. And I have to agree with that. And what was lacking is the engagement, both when it comes to the artist engaging with the with the audience, and vice versa. When, just like Michael said, when the audience becomes sort of the part of the performance, or gives the fuel to the artist to perform, there are many shows that I would not imagine just being played for the empty room. And now things are changing. Now, since a year into the pandemic, a lot of artists understood that this is something long-term and during the year. And we had the examples of sort of the big kind of A-list artists, like, for instance, like Billie Eilish, who pulled off a great stream, I think, using the AR technology. And she sold the tickets. And I think that at that point, it's got validated the point of, yes, you can sell the tickets for a certain price to the live stream show. And that kind of built the grounds for the medium-sized and smaller artists to also start selling tickets to the live stream shows. And I think also those artists can find totally new fan bases.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's a good point, actually. I like what Mike said about this, like how are artists and managers like navigating this field. So, Golly, how are like agents and managers like really navigating this field? Like, what has changed if we think about, like, I don't know, for instance, like booking an artist for a live stream concert?
Again, I haven't, when the pandemic started, all of my artists were basically, they all live in different countries. They basically said, we need to tour, but we don't want to tour. We don't want to go and play graves. Don't look for gigs for us. Don't stress. We're just going to sit this out and see what happens next. So, I think the live stream, the ticketed live stream events are usually like the larger events, right? The festivals, which we didn't have any in 2020. And this year, there are offers being made to artists. Like I said, I haven't had any, because I also don't take care of any headliners at the moment who would be requested by big festivals, which is also a totally different topic. You were on the live sector call that we had, a couple of weeks ago. But what festivals are doing right now, they're rolling the pay-per-view permissions into the booking fee. And that's a big discussion where, agents don't know how to navigate this scenario, because they're actually not allowed to hand over the pay-per-view permissions as an agent to the festival. So that's a whole new conversation that needs to be had. There needs to be language developed around that. Lawyers need to look at language that needs to be put into contracts. We need to talk about feasible ways that are fair for festivals and for artists to, if it's a scenario that's not going to go away, and if promoters are going to have to look at this as an extra form of revenue for themselves because they've lost so much money, because who knows when the next pandemic might be. A lot of them are in the red numbers. So many countries have received no help from their governments, and the ones who have, they're barely keeping their heads above water. We need to find ways to, make it fair and for people to understand it. And right now, nobody really understands it. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely very new if we're talking about the pay-per-view and the fairness behind it. So, Dave, for instance, maybe you can comment on it more specifically, what Golly just talked about, and talk about more what are the things that agents and managers should really think about when they are doing these sort of agreements, and we are talking about this pay-per-view and other sorts of agreements here.
Yeah, sure. Well, so like in 20 minutes, I think you all covered so many beautiful topics. I was just thinking about what Mika and Mike said, for instance, about how to create the engagement. And I wonder, before entering into the legal part, which is somehow it will bother the majority of the public, but the augmented reality and virtual reality stuff, that I think it's kind of odd that during this year, although one time or another we saw some AR or VR technologies being used for live streaming ticketed events, there wasn't like a correlation in the industry between what was being the boom of the live streaming platforms, and at the same time and other companies creating or the same companies creating smaller apparatus that would give the public that final touch of engagement that they would need. And we have been listening about AR and VR for so long, and I'm not in that industry, but I always think about this, this could be the year to do some big developments in that field, and that could eventually create more engagement, like Mike and Mika and Gol said. Also, taking the words of Gol, I'm not a manager or an agent, but I would like to underline that also from my clients as a lawyer, and also our clients at Unison. We are like a collective rights organization, and so authors, publishers, and also like artists, for them, it has not been like an easy path to adapt to all this boom of live streaming ticketed events. Like Mika said, or Mika's company is there for a long time, but it was not a reality for the majority of the music industry players and right holders. So yeah, I think that as a preliminary thought, when Napster happened, no one knew what to do, and then things evolved, and then Spotify and YouTube and Google came, and people had to adapt. Before that, iTunes or iTunes Store, the downloads, etc. So we kept evolving, and then lastly came the UGC platforms, which are strong competition, like Mike was saying, to the live streaming ticketed events, because those are non-ticketed events mainly, and those face different challenges in terms of licensing. Going straight to what you asked me after this brief introduction, I think that there are many challenges when it comes to the legal framework around live streaming ticketed events. As Gol knows, and all of you know, when it comes to electronic music, it's even worse, because we could go and discuss all of that, but you have like major problems that I would like to highlight. Is that one very important, and it was mentioned before, is that sometimes artists are being asked to pay the publishing rights, let's call it like that, so the US public can catch it as well, because there are some differences between US terminology and European one. But artists are sometimes being asked to pay the publishing rights for their live events. Imagine that the artists can be and are a lot of times the composers of those works, like the authors, the lyricists, the composers. So normally when an artist goes to stage and he's also the owner of the lyrics or of the composition, he will get his cachet, he will get paid for acting as an artist, but then the collecting society or whatever will receive also the composition and lyrics, the publishing rights, let's call it like that, and the artist will get paid for that if he's the publishing rights owner as well. So when they are being asked sometimes to be the ones responsible to pay those rights, it will be like it won't be recoupable. It will be like a discount on what they are earning for acting. You know, it's very tricky, and they should be very attentive to that. There are some countries that have specific legislation, not for live streaming events, but for live events, and you could somehow do the analogy that clearly states that the promoter is the one responsible for the payment of the publishing rights. But then when you come to live streaming events, for instance, with possibility of replay or retransmission or download or whatever, then you can enter into another layer of complexity that would be like the neighboring rights coming, like the record labels and everyone with rights on that side, and then add another layer of complexity. How do I see it? I think that I don't know if Mika and Mike will agree, but I think the path forward to make things like smoother also, and to not bother a lot artists with like thinking about rights and their managers and their agents, it would be to set up a landscape where the platforms, the live streaming platforms, which most of them are doing already, would reach agreements with the right holders beforehand, so the artists wouldn't be worried about that. And that, because like I said, like YouTube came and then the rights were cleared. Spotify came and then the rights were cleared. Like no one clears publishing rights before launching things on the internet, you know. So it's sort of the same. I don't know if I answered to your question, but there are a lot of things here regarding clearance of rights.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that. For instance, I never thought, like, if we're talking about pay-per-view, and from OFM as well, like one of the meetings, basically, if you live stream a festival, then people for like tens of years later on may come and actually click on this video, and none of the revenue that is going to this like festival or like YouTube channel of this, you know, festival owner of this YouTube channel, they're, you know, creating revenue all the time, like from the views that they get. There could be like millions of views, but it never goes back to the artist directly. So there are like new business models and everything that needs to be adapted to, like if we're talking about live streaming. So it's very, very complex, but it's something that we need to acknowledge that is there and that we need to speak about to get it better. But until we were talking about only like the bad parts of live streaming, as it seems that this is like panelists is slowly dropping too. I wanted to actually talk with Mika about this adaptation to this live streaming. So one of the adaptation points that was taken out like in the start of this panel was this engagement with fans. So live streaming has been talked as like the best substitute that there could be currently, but you know there are these minuses. So how could artists actually, I don't know, either take advantage of those minuses or use it to the fully? So Mikael, what can you say about that?
Well, definitely one thing that's there are pros and cons of live streaming. I would say that a big pro that artists should use when doing a live stream is to change the perspective. change the perspective of how they putting together the show. Because right now we see mostly that it's still same setup. It's a venue, it's a stage, and there's a band or the artist, and they just playing there. Instead of, and there's no audience. Instead of that, let's say thinking about the live stream of live music live stream as a music video, where you can innovate and you can basically create your own universe and live stream, put that on live stream. And on the other hand, you need to, I think what really matters almost as much as the quality and the music itself is the engagement. How to engage the fans who are sitting in front of their screens, and how to make them feel more as a part of it than as they would have been being in the venue with the artist. And here's the tricky part. I mean, we've been trying to crack this code for a long time, and we started building sub-platform to our main venue platform to curated, basically made for live streams to engage more with the both audience. That audience could engage with each other, but also with the artists in certain ways. And there are also great companies who are already doing that, both for sports events and for music when it comes to live streams. And at the same time, I'd say that it also gives artists more confidence if they actually can, let's say, see or hear the audience in some way, that they're not playing to empty room. And that happened to us at the very beginning. I remember one of our first live stream shows that we've done was after, when in between the songs, usually artist pauses and waits for applause. And it came down, and it's just such a force of habit. The artist on stage paused, and there was nothing, zero. There's no applause, there's nothing, and they were very confused, and not maybe confused, but they were put on their knees a little bit, and before they start playing the next song. But it's I think we need to think of this engagement and how to solve it, how we can bring the audience, not only the artist to the audience, but audience to the artist as well, and how to create this engagement that usually happens in a venue during the concert.
Okay. So, Mike, I would actually like to ask you the same part. You have probably seen and experienced like these live streaming shows on your platform as well. So what have you seen that have been like, maybe, I don't know if good, like engagement tips, because as Mikael said, it's like Da Vinci's code that still needs to be cracked, and we don't maybe know like the correct tools to do that. But basically, how can a musician use this live streaming platform like as well as possible to engage with their audience?
I think there are various ways to look at it. The first and foremost, almost every platform that came out of COVID came out of due to necessity, including ours, that we need a way in order to facilitate this for the industry, in order to kind of really stimulate the industry back. I myself was a roadie. So that's kind of my background of that. I worked in business development for a bunch of production vendors. And that's really where, for me, I started the company really to facilitate getting back to the swing of things, finding out a way in order to, kind of essentially force the conversation to happen, to force these concerts to occur. I think innovation is definitely what's needed there. Like Mikael said, there's tons of companies that are coming out with some more interaction based elements. There's a lot of AR and VR technologies that are starting to come full swing, and to be able to be used for this. I think one of the big things for us to think about is, what do we do now, when we can't go to events, and then what do we do when we come back? And this is the point where we're all at that point of trying to figure out what to do and how we do it. And this is kind of the really cool thing about this industry is this is how everything has changed. This is how we really innovate in this and what becomes the new and exciting thing that we do. Do we go back to doing full scale shows, later this year, next year, or whatever it may be? Or do we stay with these hybrid shows? One of the things our platform focuses on besides the actual live stream is continuing the revenue generation for artists on their previously recorded performances. Again, going back to the fact that I was roadie, I know almost every mainstream artist that's touring is recording all of their shows. Those shows sit on a hard drive that sits in somebody's desk or with an archivist, and then never gets used or, very rarely gets seen. And for me personally, that's always a huge disservice because you're losing out on that art form, that journey. Think back, I'm sure almost everybody here has seen the performances at Live Aid, that are up on YouTube and everything. Those are amazing pieces of music history that we wouldn't necessarily have had they not been recorded, had they not been kept, and obviously now introduced out to the world. They were hugely immenseful in my career path as well. So I think it's looking at what ways we can innovate, if we can continue this or kind of reshape the industry to go into something that's going to allow us to continue doing this. Obviously, these live streams are not going to go away. Even when we come back to shows, it's a fantastic way to reach audiences that are not, geographically feasible to go to. Like here in America, most artists don't go to Hawaii, unfortunately, because of just the logistical cost that goes to there. So you have to think about everybody who lives there in order to see, a mainstream artist has to travel to there. And again, live stream is not the perfect thing. It's very difficult to get back that interaction. And that's something that we as an industry need to work on, how we crack that code of that and get to it. But, for millions of people that don't get to see a show, it's because somebody was sick or they couldn't get off from work. Having the ability to come back and watch this, having the ability to watch footage of shows that you were at, 20, 30 years ago is a huge, immenseful thing for any fan. And that really helps cement in that interaction and that certification for that fan to be able to watch the entire journey an artist had through their entire career and to relive those experiences again. It's all about continuing that connection. Right now we're all stuck on how to get that connection to be 100% perfect. Will it be 100% perfect? I'm not even sure myself. And we're all hoping to find the right combination of tools and practices that are going to really unlock it for the entire industry.
I think that the point was actually really good. David, would you like to add here? You're muted.
No, just Mike's thoughts just led me to another thought which we've discussed sometimes. And as you asked for like advice for managers or whatever, and good things about live streaming or how not to turn it into a bad thing. So one thing that they have to consider is that, for instance, it's what some people have been calling getting sick of an artist effect. So, for instance, you would pay to see like Dire Straits every time they went to your city or to your country or whatever, and you would be waiting for that. And then Dire Straits could generate revenue from their tour, from a lot of cities, a lot of venues, but some managers and agents are using, and that goes to what Mika said also on choosing well your live streaming platform and choosing well the strategy to develop on your live streaming platform. I'm not an expert on that, far away from that, but if you choose like to release or if you choose to release all of your repertoire or like a 2-hour live streaming concert in a worldwide open platform, then you will pay to watch it again, like you can get like the exhaustion of what you could earn in one act, because people from all around the world will see you once, then maybe they can purchase another ticket and they can see you twice on the same platform. But there you go. So this pushes, like, there are two like paths here. One, it's doing like I'm thinking out loud, but it's like doing like super short live streaming concerts, like 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks maximum, and then only releasing new tracks for new live streaming concerts. Because if you release everything there, then people won't pay to see you again, even if you are like the biggest fan of a band or of an artist, you won't pay to see it like 20 times in 20 months. Then that's one path. The other, it's like choosing well the territories, because a lot of platforms allow that. You choose well the territories, you target the public that you want to engage, and then you do the logic of the live events, and you bring it into the live streaming events. Again, I'm not an expert on this area, but due to what Mike was saying, I remembered this. This is a topic that has been discussed, and that can cause like major damages in terms of income to artists if it's not well planned. Just adding this.
That's actually true. Mikael, do you have anything to add to David's comment?
I think David is absolutely right with that, and we were thinking about it quite a lot about it, and let's say just locking the stream in a certain territory. Let's say that if we're doing a show in Germany, we're locking this just to audience in Germany, or if we're doing this in Sweden or any other country, we're just locking this in this one particular country. Maybe we can add some flair to this particular concert, let's say, that is gonna be targeted to the audience from that country, and then we can move on to the next one and do actually real kind of tour, sort of online, just by blocking the accessibility of that stream.
That sounds pretty clever for like marketing gurus, an extra strategic idea put together. One of the thoughts I really want to just like push out is it's not like pandemic is going away, but Golly, I really wanted to ask, like, from your experience or what you have seen, the experiences that we have currently with the live streaming. Let's say that one day we have this really lucky, happy day that we can actually do these real physical live concerts, be in this venue and feel this rhythm. Will these live streaming events carry on? Can we like create some sort of a synergy here of using what we have experienced during the pandemic and go with that somehow? Or would they be like totally up to a zero, just cut out?
No, I think the festivals are definitely going to have to continue. They will have to do live streams. And I think what's really important is the industry just needs to stabilize financially. And if there's ways to make money in order to kind of like put money away for a rainy day, which nobody had, a lot of people did not have, they're not going to say no to any, type of opportunity to like make that happen. And I think we do have to work together with one another to understand that. that, festivals need the money. These small clubs need the money, grassroots venues need the money. There's such a huge portion of the world, like I said before, they're not going to get help in this pandemic, the next pandemic. So we really do need to take a closer look at how our ecosystem works financially. And I think it's been really fragile. And we do need to come up with some clever ways and making sure that we're, maybe exploiting is the wrong word, but making sure that we aren't missing up on an opportunity to, create income for everyone involved in a process. Obviously, it needs to be distributed fairly, but those things are going to have to be looked at, because what happens with the next pandemic if we're definitely going to have one. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. In that terms, we also have to look, what we briefly also talked about was like the regulations. So maybe, David, you can talk a bit, how is Unison working along with these live mediums and platforms in order to set up this like viable structure for this copyright management?
Yeah, sure. You said you were sure about what Gol was saying. I hope the next pandemic is not one thing you are sure of. But fingers crossed. But yeah, absolutely. I think that live streaming platforms, the majority of them have been, it's not the same that happened with UGC platforms for the majority of us, like licensors, entities who license large amounts of copyright works to the users. So live streaming platforms have been engaging well, sometimes not being an easy licensee, I would say, but they have approached collective management entities, right holders, and etc., to understand what type of rights would they need to clear. CMOs and right holders also had to adapt, because I would say that the majority of us didn't have like live streaming tariffs, for instance, available. So I think everyone tried to adapt on the side of live streaming platforms and on the side on our side of right holders or their representatives. What happened, for instance, it's funny, because I think one of the first things that a lot of right holders did, or CMOs did, like SACEM and others, was like, okay, the paradigm is changing. So the first thing we have to do is to allocate the monies that we already have from non-ticketed events, and then try to distribute to the right holders that have been played in live streaming events. Like quick solution, like Gol was saying, it was like a big hit on everyone, and the sector was like dying, and it still is. But so quick solutions came. Then we all had to create like new models or new tariffs to adapt to the models that they were submitting to us, live streaming platforms, because they are so different. I can remember an example. I can't say their name, but I remember like 3 months ago, a festival approached us, and they said, okay, so we want to do something that we are a live streaming platform. And we said, okay, so what are the services that you are providing? So we can, okay, so we offer live streaming events, then we offer user-generated content, then we have a streaming platform where you can choose the music that you want to listen, you can download, and then we said, you are not a live streaming platform, you are like a bunch of stuff, but not that, So there are some complexities into that. This is to say that we have developed at Unison, for instance, we have developed like for ticketed live stream events, we have developed like 2 tariffs. One is we charge based on the well, we charged based on the box office revenue, the income, and then now we charge based on the virtual box office income, a 7% fee. What we've tried to do, and that goes into our approach to like effective usage and transparency and etc., is that we prorate it accordingly with the music that it's used. So for instance, that's very important, and we discuss it a lot in AFM, as Gal knows. It's like going to the granularity of identifying what is being played so it gets paid. So that means that there won't be nothing that it's played that won't get paid, but something that it's not played won't need to be paid. And this is also good for, or this has been received well by live streaming platforms, because they see the transparency, and this is not anymore, like you were saying, guys, this isn't, like Mike was saying, like this is not anymore the traditional landscape that we had. Like it's not anymore like we withdraw the rights from you guys and you can't play anything, because people in live streaming, in this live streaming world, when you touch something, you are touching the whole thing. It's very like mingled. I don't know if this is the expression, but so you have to be very careful, because it's sort of a symbiosis. I remember, for instance, the first reactions against Twitch, where you had like sort of like bipolar reactions. The record label industry were making takedowns or asking for takedowns for the content available in Twitch. And the publishing right holders were like, no, don't take it down. We have to monetize it, you know? So it's, I think there is still some road to be done, some steps to be achieved. As I said, in AFM, I truly believe they are doing a lot to achieve that, but it's more focused on electronic music. And I think that forums such as AFM and this one, what we are discussing here, should be more transversal to this is not like it was before, like a warfare, like between licensors and licensees, or let's say like artists and platforms, or authors and platforms. It can't be anymore. It has to be like a symbiosis, you know. We all have to feed each other. Otherwise, like I don't think that the sector will load for a long time if the pandemic goes longer, or if we can solve this together. This is like, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. I definitely agree. Like there is a lot that needs to be like gone through. Like there is a lot that the live industry has gone through within a year, like going from zero like physical live concerts on to boom, you're in a studio without any fans. You as an artist have to perform, have to take the most advantage of what you have, as you know, what is surrounding you in like the technical side, and you have to do your best. And then there is this copyright, like I can't call them like issues directly, but points that we have to look into and refine. So there is quite a lot that that can get like better, but within a year, where how like it was adapted so fast. So of course the rates and everything have to kind of stretch back, and it will take a bit of time. I would like to do a final round of words maybe together with you. So it could be that everything goes very well and smoothly, and that the pandemic rolls down nicely, but it could be that, well, there are after effects that are for several years to come, and it could go on for quite a long time. So what would you suggest for the industry and the people and the musicians to prepare, how to take like the best out of the worst situation currently? Mike, what would you suggest?
I think the entire industry has taken a huge hit. I think everybody who's involved has taken the hit, and like David's been pointing out, we all need to come together, and we all need to figure out how we're going to move forward with this. Between if it's rights and streaming platforms, if it's artists and platforms, artist promoters, anything like that. We all know none of us made the money in the industry that we had expected to make within that time. Even from the large scale promoters all the way down to the small venues, we're all hurting, and we all need to come to the table together and really solidify something that's going to be fair for the artists. I'm going to speak, as a former crew member. I know there are many of them who are unemployed, who are sitting there and homeless now, essentially. And it's something that's very difficult to watch, and something that we need to figure out how we change this, how we stimulate the industry to move forward. And you think about how many people are involved, how many real, actual people are involved in doing the event, not just crew, support staff, management, artists, down to the rights, down to the publishing, and all of that. There's thousands and thousands of people that go into one show, and every single one of those people have been affected by this, and we need to figure out a way in order to make it fair that when we come back, we can figure out a way how to really sustain and really come about. Here in America, if you want to do a concert, even when we're allowed to geographically, there's so much that needs to happen right now. Production companies need to come back, rehiring, onboarding employees, and new things around. I mean, we are months away from really being able to put on a successful show once the button is hit, in order to move forward. So we need to come together and figure out a way, be it a hybrid model of streaming and live events, be it some form of interaction, or the next thing that we kind of innovate and gravitate towards would we all need to understand that we're all in this really together to help rebuild the industry, help rebuild something to be stronger and more resilient, that if there is another pandemic or something else happens that comes and tries to take down or take apart the industry, that we're going to be able to survive it, each obviously individually in our own sector, and then together as a whole.
Thank you. I think that was beautifully said. The activation is of the current situation is something that we need to deal with, and not only for today, but yes, for the upcoming pandemics, because this probably will not be the only one, although we wish it was so. Mikael, what would you say to musicians how to take like the best out of this worst case scenario? What would you suggest?
First of all, I think, let's say, because usually the concerts also, when it comes to the bigger artists, the concerts are also going on tour, means it's usually combined with releasing the new music, new album, new singles. And I would say that if you have the chance and you have the ability of putting off, let's say, a live stream show, don't postpone it, because I saw that a lot of artists were back in summer, they're postponing doing live stream shows because it's gonna pass soon, so we're gonna do concerts, and then the things got worse, and at the end they didn't do a live stream, they didn't do concerts, and the hype from releasing a new music kind of dialed down and died eventually. So I would say that cash in if you see the possibility and the opportunity of doing something, just do it, and choose your platform wisely. whichever it might be a Twitch or might be a YouTube. Twitch's been great with putting off their live stream shows. They really want to promote that. They want to start a new sort of chapter, not only for gamers, but also for more creative and artistic also content. And also marketing is not as tough for live streams as people imagine. It's not so much different from promoting a live show. So just be brave and just go for it. Don't overthink it.
That's a good one. Golly, what do you think? How can we activate the live industry? Meanwhile, we are at a standstill still, but what can we do, or what are the advantages that are already, made, such as like live stream platforms that we should use more? Like Mika said, that don't, postpone your live stream concert. Do it. You never know if the, days get even worse.
I mean, this pandemic has given so many people an opportunity to reflect and decide whether the music they were putting out was the right type of music, whether the business plan that they were following was the right business plan for them, whether the stuff that they had to do on social media, whether it felt right, whether they felt like artists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've had, a year to sit back and think about, how they want to re-enter the market. And, I think that one of the most important things, a lot has been covered already, but one of the most important things is for everyone to actually educate themselves on the economics of, the ecosystem, to understand how much money a promoter makes, from a 500 capacity event or 1,000 capacity event. A lot of this information is completely unknown to artists, and because everyone's living on social media, there's a lot of comparison going on, and there's a lot of we're a deregulated nightlife industry, and our industry isn't necessarily based on there's a lot of mistrust going on towards promoters, because a club isn't a rock concert where you sell a certain number of tickets. You can have, with a 500 capacity event, if you have a strong lineup and you're open for 8 or 9 hours, you can easily, depending on how cool your club is, you can sometimes have 2,000 people, 2,500 people, walking in and out of your club. I would like to see more transparency. I would like to see promoters, being open about their financial possibilities. I would like to see more interest. We're not going to be able to revive ourselves unless we work a lot harder than what we were doing before. It's not going to go back to, agents aren't just going to, just getting a one-liner from a promoter. This is the fee. This is the, this is the booking fee. This is the flights. Boom. It's not going to be like that anymore. Hopefully, I think people are going to have to take a good look at and make sure that they're only entering good deals with people, so that there is money left over for the promoter to put aside to, invest in the newcomers and, all of these things that matter. A promoter, a club is a seedbed for the culture of electronic music, and not just a business. And these are things that really matter, and people haven't been paying attention to them in the past years increasingly. So that's one of the things I hope people take out of the understanding of how fragile the economy was, and how everyone was just as good as their last booking or as good as their last show. And when, COVID came and put a stop and an end to all of that, how it was, it became really, really difficult to lean back on anything. It shouldn't be like that moving forward.
David, any final words? You've said briefly about the transparency and that we should be working together. What else can we right now, not only like as musicians, but as a whole industry, what can we take in this situation, what we can learn, and as Koi said, take us with us even after the pandemic?
Well, if I'm allowed, I make goals, and Mika's and Mike's words and yours and mine, because you've basically said it all in this wrap up conclusion. I would say that also we need to come up with quick solutions. We need to come up with solutions together, but we need to understand that some things just take time. Like Warren Buffett said it one time. He said some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month, or you can have a baby in 1 month by having 9 women pregnant. So it's some things must follow a procedure, and this is not like making a bureaucracy of it, but I think that we need like Mika's company. So we need a lot, or the sector needs a lot, live streaming platforms. They are not the evil side. We need them, but also live streaming platforms, they need the artists, and artists, they need managers, and the promoters, and then the artists also need the composers and the lyricists. So again, the ecosystem, it's super linked, and anything that you do here will have an impact there. So basically, again, I think that it will take some time to put us all together, but we have to understand that either you like it or not, we are engaged. So we are doing it. I think that we are doing it already, but in specific sectors, like I said, or in specific fields of music. But we need to sit down, look at things, and have a cooperative attitude towards one another. That's the punchline. Because we could be talking about publishing rights, neighboring rights, how to license that won't matter if you don't have cooperation between us. You get stuck, you get litigation, no one gets paid. It will be even worse than the scenario that Go was so well describing. So yeah, again, being positive, I think we are doing stuff. People are cooperating. So let's continue on that path. That's the way forward,
Okay, so basically what we can take out of this panel is that the live industry has been actually doing pretty good in how fast we have jumped into creating these new business models, new platforms and everything. And we're really trying to activate what we have, not to stay stable, but creating our own opportunities. And as Mika also said, if there is an opportunity, use it, don't wait. This marketing, everything isn't so difficult. There is a lot that needs to be gone through between the promoters, agents, of course, the copyrights, everything, but it will stretch to there because we have jumped into these solutions so fast. Of course, there will be some sort of things we need to refine with what we have. But overall, we have to say that I think we can do a lot better, and we're going to do a lot better because there is so much that we have achieved actually within the year, like the innovation curve that we have actually made, and hopefully we can use it also after pandemic, and we can also use everything that we have learned within this year and upcoming time. So thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, Mika, David, and Golly for this panel. After this panel, there will be a second panel talking about the COVID-19 live productions. So there will be a festival and people with experience of doing live productions during COVID-19. So I hope you will stay with us. So, welcome back, everyone. We are here at our second panel talking about online concert productions during COVID-19, how to effectively promote and execute a concert production that is meant for live streaming. And here we have today three wonderful people. We have here Andy Jones, who has worked within the industry for 15 years. He is the co-founder and music booker for Focus Wells, an annual international showcase festival. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you.
We have next up Granny, who is a project manager for cultural productions. She works for festivals and musical institutions, mainly as logistics referee and communications manager. She is also collaborating with Keep On Live, which is the Italian Association of Live Clubs and Festivals. Welcome, Granny.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
And last but not least, we have Kalle, who has been in the music events and productions area since 1996. And he has been working also with Stockholm and their bigger events, and is involved in Stockholm's nightlife. One wonderful thing Kalle did was 36 Hours of Ingrid, a music festival that attracted over 2 million viewers. So welcome, Kalle.
Thank you.
Okay, so nice to have you all here. What would I really like to start out with is to talk about Granny, if you could give us maybe a short overview of the situation in Italy. So how is this, how are concert production going? How much is there this online or live stream productions? Do you know how popular it is currently?
Yeah, so in Italy, we have a pretty complex situation. The concert sector and live music sector is completely stopped since 1 year straight. This last summer, there were some possibilities of doing outdoor or indoor events, but with really strict protocols and mask distancing, but also no food and drink distribution, and maximum 200 people indoor and maximum 1,000 outdoor. So it was really somehow also not sustainable for promoters to organize or live clubs to open. So there are a lot of areas in which it's 1 year straight that no live concerts and live music are happening. I have to say that during this year, there have been many attempts to create a streaming alternative to this impossibility to do live shows, but there has not been a stabilization in that sense. Many promoters, many workers of the sector don't feel that this is a completely effective solution to go in front of what are the needs also of the audience, of the artists, of the promoters, and of the workers. So there is a bit of skepticism also in that sense. There have been some attempts, experiments, but yeah, it's also, I think, a bit difficult to create a context in which the audience can understand why there are some prices or to cover, some costs to cover also in the live streaming. So it's also maybe about educating the audience on a new media and on a new mean to listen to a live show.
I understand. I want to be a little bit irritating against Kalle. I really want to ask or shout out this question to Andy and Kalle, like, but why then would you do an online concert? I understand that it's like the only way we can do productions, but there are like so many problems with, there's the copywriting, there's this engagement. Why would you take the route of going through this hard difficulty?
Well, I wouldn't be able to live without music, so I couldn't really see the alternative. So basically I was sitting near the studio where we filmed the live stream and talking to one of the guys who runs it. And as everybody's off touring and everybody's at home, it's quite easy to get people to be a part of a live stream. So we got a lot of artists to be a part of it with the promise only to pay for what the audience were willing to give. And it turned out to be a really successful model for at least the first time. And I would say that I love doing it, and I would do it again. And I think streaming is not the best alternative, but if it's the only alternative, it's really, really good sometimes.
And Andy, what about you? You've been doing like a huge show. You had like there were multiple festivals actually collaborating. How did it go? And like, how was the planning process? What did you saw as maybe the advantage of having a live stream festival?
Well, yeah, I mean, to generate work for the artists, for the freelancers, the production companies, the venues. I think that was the thing, really. I mean, Focus Wales, the work we do ordinarily is all about platforming our artists and industry for the wider global music industry. So, we welcome the world to Wales for our event, and the idea is to sort of provide that shop window for our just a wider industry. So we feel like a responsibility to do something in the moment, I guess. So the first thing we did was to look at a conference, because we had all of these artists whose plans had suddenly hit a brick wall. So we did our Out of Focus format platform in September. Big learning curve. That was more so about the artist to industry engagement, but it also had some performance elements in it. And sure, there was a lot to learn going through that process, definitely. The most recent thing which you referenced, the Gwyl Festival. Gwyl is the Welsh word for festival. And so it was a very sort of wide, sort of branded thing. And the whole point was that it was a reflection of everything that's going on in Wales. So we collaborated with 3 other festival organisers, and it covered music, it covered theatre, dance, literature, and it was basically an 8-day celebration of everything that we have going on. And again, the idea that we could generate work for the artists and the freelancers, and a lot of those elements of the music industry that have kind of slipped through the gaps of government support, and we need them to be there. We need the technicians, the lighting designers, and the backline companies to still be in business. So that was kind of a motivation.
Yeah, I definitely can agree. So before, like, I'm not sure, like, how before you were doing your first, or even experiencing yourself your first like live streaming concert and watching them, like overall, like watching these and watching the world going towards that direction, what are the feelings about how artists, promoters and fans are like adapting to it? How are they actually like reacting to it?
Is this for me, or is this for anybody to take? I mean,
anybody, even
I have thoughts. I mean, there was a really famous one early on, right, with Biffy Clyro, because they have a huge audience. So then they did a really successful live stream, and then everybody goes, "Oh, Biffy Clyro can do it, so everybody can do it." But of course, new artists don't have that ready-made huge audience where they can sell tickets for €10 a go or whatever it may be. So I thought that was a bit of a, it was a bit of a false scenario, because it just doesn't apply to 99% of artists. But I don't know. I feel generally, you look at the 2 ends of the spectrum, you've got that end, really successful artists, big audiences, and they can make it work. And they can sell to their global audience. So it's actually quite appealing. And then you have newer artists. I think it's more difficult. As was said earlier, it's more difficult to try and encourage people to understand why there should be a value on that, and why it's important to keep the artists going through this time. But I think generally the responses have been quite positive. Like through the conferencing side, it's been really useful for artists to still be able to connect. Like we've just done South by Southwest, and we did Eurosonic. I'm showcasing Welsh artists, and all of those artists have gained new connections. So I feel like I'm talking too much, but ultimately I'm saying it can be positive.
No, sharing your experience is very good. This is the point of the panel, to talk about experiences and to really show that there can be something good and positive about this. Kalle, would you mind commenting as well, like seeing through this change? Like, how do you think that fans are taking it, or how artists and promoters are taking it? How is it going? What's your feelings about it?
Yeah, I think that it's a bit too wide to say that it has been the same throughout the pandemic, but because it started out being really interesting, and then I think it dipped totally just a few months later. And during the summer, people could go out a bit, at least in Sweden and most of Europe, I would guess. And then when we got almost or partially or totally locked down in the fall again, I think that it affected I mean, people started longing for music again, and then it started up again, but not in the same way as in the beginning when everything was new. So I would say that the start was really like an interesting way of exploring a new way of expressing yourself, or at least a new media. And then it like turned to a peak of where everybody did it, and so it wasn't really interesting for everybody to watch all of these small bands or larger bands. But I think that when it's been such a long time as it is, and now it's like the artists understood that they could in a way do this without their booking agencies. So I think that I would guess that the booking agencies, like the live, the like traditional booking agencies, have been suffering the most. And I think the artists will still reach their audience. And I think that smaller people, like I have my own firm, and I don't know, it's like I don't depend on a salary from a big company. I can just do whatever I want all the time, and it's like suited me perfectly to just readapt to this new way of making shows. And I don't know if that's a question, that's an answer, but I think that it's a curve. It's not a static, and it's like it's going to change again, I guess.
Well, Kenny, the same to you. Like, would you, I don't know, in a few months it's summer and there is maybe some possibility to go and listen to live music outside. Would you, I don't know, sit at home and watch a live stream if you would have the possibility to go outside? Or what do you think is even going to happen to this like live streaming after the pandemic is over? Because a lot of investments, even music tech companies and investors, are massively investing into this technology currently. It's huge. So, I mean, we're going to be in the pandemic for an unknown time. We can't say it's going to be a year. We can't definitely say that. But what do you think, Annie, if we're going to like stick with these? How is it going?
I think that even after the pandemic emergency, live streaming shows will be a new point of experimentation, but I think that it can be interesting as long as it has a really interesting and innovative aspect on the use of technologies, which are now permitting to do a lot of things that would have been unimaginable. And there is a lot of research, creative and also technical on that. So I think that that's the way in which live streaming shows can give an add on the scene. But I also think on the other side that as soon as there will be the possibility for people to go to see concerts and be in a real life social situation, it will be preferable for them to go there. I think that that's one of the main aspects of live music. It's social, it's sociality, it's sharing, it's being with people. physically also. And it's also a physical experience listening to live music. So I think that it can't be, I'm not finding the word, but it's something that you can find it in live streaming. So I think that it will be really interesting to see how far we can go with technology on this sense, and how much different experiences we can provide. But it's something different.
Okay, thank you. Kalle, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was thinking. I think that I think that the way Sweden as a country, sorry, I keep the way the country Sweden is made. It's like the density of the population is so widespread. It's nobody living in the north, in the north of Sweden. But I mean, there are so few people living in the north of Sweden, and I think that opens up a bit for Sweden to be possibly using this technology even more in the future, now that people saw the advantages of not having to travel every time you need to see a show in Stockholm, for example. So I think in a country like Sweden, I think we will see possibly an even bigger impact from this streaming in a longer perspective.
Mm-hmm. Andy, do you have anything to add? What do you think? How is this innovation going to be evolving? What is your personal opinion about this?
Well, I think it's always going to be with us. I think, and I think that's a positive thing. I think it's, like Kalle alludes to there. I think it includes people that otherwise might not be able to access the experience of seeing certain shows. But like was also said earlier, there was a journey, I think, in terms of audience response to live streaming over the last 12 months. Earlier on, I think people would humour lower production qualities, but as time went on, there was fatigue with it. And I think people are not going to pay for something that has low production qualities. So I think they expect to see almost the TV production quality thing if you're going to pay money for it. And that's difficult because not all theatres and live spaces are kitted out for a TV production. You need specific lighting, you need the film crew, the team to edit it, and all of that goes with that. It's not cheap to do it properly. But, I think that there are huge positives. I think, there is opportunities to reach new markets through it, both in terms of reaching audience, just regular audiences, music fans, but also in terms of market development. We're also the export office for new music from Wales. So alongside hosting the artists from around the world, we also try and take Welsh artists to different markets. Like I referenced earlier, we did in recent months Eurosonic, before that Waves Vienna, and most recently South by Southwest. And it's been quite interesting to see what can be achieved digitally. Now, I don't think this replaces that live experience of putting bands in the room in front of delegates. I think you need the energy, the people, the sub bass, you need that vibe. But in terms of preparing the artists for new markets, if you're going to take an artist from Europe to Asia or to North America, it's actually quite cost effective to do a pre-trip, maybe online, but not public facing sort of industry connector session, which is something that we've been doing in the background to prepare the artists for the market, introduce them to labels and agents and bookers before you put them on the aeroplane. That can be, I don't know, I feel like that can make a bigger impact overall, and you're not putting people on an aeroplane who are ill prepared.
That's actually a very good point. Kalle, you can add here.
I used my analog hand there. I think it worked better. I wanted to ask you, Andy, do you think that this will be something that smaller artists will would it benefit smaller artists or the opposite?
I think it can benefit artists, but it could also do the opposite, because I think everybody's running into the future now with this technology. And, we look at the landscape, the musical landscape in Wales, for example. Now, we're a small nation of 3 million plus people, right? But so it's not a huge place, but we kind of overproduce in terms of the number of artists that we have. And I've got to say, maybe before the pandemic, 80% of those artists in Wales did not have what I would consider adequate online presence. You know, they didn't have professionally filmed performances or professionally filmed music videos. So many of them were kind of, I don't know, just stumbling along up to a point where maybe a label picks them up and or a manager, and they professionalize their online presence. Whereas now the artists have gone, oh, I need to be able to communicate with audiences online. Let's do a live show. Or there are promoters like us and others creating online festivals and opportunities to capture those performances. But it's so important. I mean, we know for an artist to be considered export ready and, you know, to sort of entice the invitations from whether it's South by Southwest or other showcase festivals around the world, those industry connection opportunities, the bookers always want to see a live performance. This is like a standard that you expect to see. You want to know what it's going to be like on the stage. So suddenly we have all these artists that have got this now. So I think everybody realizes that they're going to have it, but there is sort of, yeah, there is potentially disparity in those that have access to funds to be able to professionally produce these things and those who don't. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's down to policymakers and our arts councils and governments to artists can.
You're breaking up a bit, so I didn't really catch the question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back now. You're good.
So I was just asking if there is support for artists or managers in Italy and Sweden to be able to access funding to be able to professionally film performances for online sessions or for showcase festivals. I know we have digital funding in Wales for this type of activity. Whether or not it's enough, we don't know yet, but there is some. I wonder if there is support mechanisms like that where you guys are based.
There are some funds that are like private for projects, but it's not enough, I think, to cover which would be eventually the cutout, this scenario which would be cut out because it's actually expensive to have a good kind of production. And I think that this also applies to the live clubs, not just to the artists or to managers and bookers and productions, because especially in Italy, we have a really variegated scenario. There are big places, but also a lot of small places in small town, which have a completely different business model. And it would be really difficult to have a really inclusive online possibility also for these categories, I think.
Okay.
But to answer your question, it's really, really good in Sweden, I would say. I don't know exactly how the artists are doing and how many of them that gets funding, but I know that I, as a promoter, got a lot of support from the government. So I would say, from my perspective, it's been perfect.
Brilliant.
So one of the things like I hear quite often is the fact that these productions are, well, they are expensive, you know, to do something professionally. Fortunately, it's very, accessible to get a camera, and these things have evolved in the last like 10 years. It's quite, you know, you can have a professional camera at your home and you can use that, but everything else to do a big show is expensive. So what are really the other challenges in doing this live production? Like what other things you can think about? Like one of the things I can think about is engagement, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You're
talking about live streaming or
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So when you are like planning a concert, so what's like a different challenge than doing a usual production? Like what you have to think differently? What are the other challenges?
Health and safety. I mean, right now, making sure that people are safe, that's the tough thing. So, we had to establish new protocols because, it's never been done, and we're dealing with something like COVID-19 that is completely new. So our Goil Festival was supported by the government and done in collaboration with the BBC. So they expected the highest standards in terms of mitigating against all the risks. So it's a very tricky thing to do because ultimately you're putting lots of people through venues and trying to do it with almost zero contact. But yeah, I think it's a difficult thing for an artist to take on in isolation. I think you need a good team around you to be able to do it.
Kalle, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think that there are so many different elements to a live stream than to a regular live show with audiences, and I think that the one that I'm actually happy to not. I don't need to make like toilets work or like logistics or crowd control and all of the security, even though it's going to be a bit security around the production when it comes to COVID, it's not nearly as difficult for me as a promoter or producer, and it's a really handy format to work with, and as long as you can understand how to time and promote, because timing would be really crucial, and also promotion is not as promotion usually is, because you need to compete with the rest of all of internet. So you need to understand how to reach the audience in a different way and in the right moments. So that's the difficulties that I see.
Yeah, there is a lot of like communication noise, you could say, because everyone is like doing it. And, you have 24 hours a day, you need to eat, sleep, and do all of the other things. And if you have like live streams and TV and everything that is shooting in from your computer, there is going to be like this decisive moment of, going to take a walk in the park and not looking at your screen at all, maybe. So that can be, a third option. So we a little bit like touched on it, but how can we use or keep these online productions relevant even once we have gone through this crisis? So how could we use what we have, invested into within this year and maybe the coming year? The investments can get really big that we're actually doing time-wise and of course money-wise. So how can we like keep these relevant even when we have actual concerts? Andy, for instance.
Yeah, I guess the thing I mentioned earlier, you were referencing the international market development work. It's just a logical thing, actually, and it's something we could have always done, but now it seems to make more sense all of a sudden, because we're doing a lot of this. And well, I guess suddenly because everybody has had to get online and get on board with the concept of streaming and video calling. I was reluctant to use Skype before the pandemic, and now we're all just doing it, and I'm Skyping my mother every day, and it's Skyping, Zooming. So it's like things have changed a lot for everybody, but it's going to be interesting to see how just general performances continue to live alongside it. I think they will, but I think it's going to rely on real creative ideas to engage audiences. Especially if you want to charge for it, has to be high production, has to be a really good offer for all the things you're saying. There's so much competition. But from our side, at least, I think on the conference side of what we do with Focus Wales, I think it can be really good for opening up the conference and the business connection side of things to markets around the world that maybe can't get to our event. It creates this possibility to look at, as almost in different markets and different economies, we could look at different graded ticket system maybe to make it more inclusive, so that the financial cost of accessing a conference isn't such a barrier. I think it's really important that the sort of the global music industry takes care of itself, and you're thinking broadly, and that nobody is sort of left out of the sort of equation. So that's interesting. And as I said, the export side of things, I think online streaming is really exciting for that side of things, because we all want a greener planet, and we're still going to have tours, and artists are still going to go to different continents to tour and engage with new audiences. But I think making sure that we're a bit more calculated about it makes a lot of sense, and streaming makes that possible.
That's actually a good point. I've never thought about from the point of view of having a greener planet, and not always, first of all, investing into an artist and throwing them into a market that they have never been in. And second of all, keeping things carbon neutral as possible. So that's actually a very good point in that way. And you already kind of referenced before, because I asked you directly about this, whether you would watch live concerts or not. But how can we keep this live concerts relevant even if the pandemic is over?
Yeah, I think that I can actually agree with what Andy said. Right now, the greener side is really interesting, and also probably the possibility of inclusion in a more variegated audience. But I still see some downsides which can be complex. I really think that this is a mean that it's pretty useful for new visions and new creations. But I think that that's the main thing. I mean, keeping it something different from what we already had, not have right now, but had, and trying to develop this technology in a way that it can bring us in places that we couldn't reach without this technology. So probably I think that that's the point.
Got it. Kalle, how to keep live streamed events live even after the COVID?
Yeah, as I said before, I think Sweden is a bit different between if you compare to Wales and Italy, which is probably more dense in their population. So I would say that in Sweden it could be, and I think it will be, a really big part of the concert scene even afterwards. And I think also Sweden and most of, I would guess that all of you are going to see an international crowd to all of your maybe concerts or conferences that you couldn't really reach otherwise, because it's cheaper to just put on a live stream than a travel. And I think that even, I would say that I'm working with a festival that's similar to South by Southwest in September, and it's going to be showcases, and it's going to be larger concerts, and it's going to be talks and all of these things. But we're pretty sure that we can have some audience. We can't really be totally sure that we can have a 3,000 people audience in September, but we were hoping. But then we can add on potentially unlimited passes for people abroad, and that's something that I think will stick. I think that's I don't think you can't charge nearly as much as you could for people to come in a physical way, but you can charge as much as the live stream would cost to produce.
That's true. And how much do you expect on, in the near future, on creating live events yourself? What do you have up planned? Are there any productions that are going to be live streamed already?
To be live streamed? Well, yeah, there's a number through our export work. There's a number of partnerships that we have where their events would be coming up over the next 6 months. So those events in particular are now looking at, for example, New School Rules, the hip hop festival in Rotterdam. and those guys can't have an in-person event. They're now doing a digital edition in May, and we're going to have a couple of artists showcasing. So then can we get a couple of showcases together to send over to Henka to put as part of her program? I think there's going to be a bit of that over the next few months, but we're super eager to get back to the in-person events. I think everybody shares this appetite, audiences, festival organizers, but I think it's quite exciting what we can do, having a sort of online option alongside it. For us, it would be really difficult because if we're delivering an in-person Focus Wales, that's 20 stages, and capturing that is quite tricky. I mean, maybe we could do a compromise and have just a couple of those bigger stages maybe filmed, and then people can get a live stream for that. But I think promoters are going to have a really tough decision to make, because how does a live stream option eat into your regular ticket sales? It's complicated, and there's probably not one easy answer. But I think ultimately it's exciting. It's a new thing that we can use to our advantage if we use it wisely. So I'm certainly not intimidated by live streaming. I think we should welcome it and work with it.
That's good to hear. Gani, is there anything, any productions that you are working with in the near future, or anything that you're looking forward to hearing or watching?
Yeah, I'm actually working on some productions at the moment, but not online. We are still seeing if it will be possible on the summertime to do events in presence, but we'll see if it will be possible or not. Otherwise, live streaming is an option, of course. But yeah, it really, I think that at this point, if you want to do a streaming show, you really have to think about it from the beginning, because you also have to set different kind of communication and a different production also in how you use the space in which you do the streaming. So it shouldn't be a plan B, but it should be instead of directly a plan A.
But you're doing the opposite. You just said that you are planning it as a physical production and keeping it as a plan B, but you should be doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So how much time have you left yourself until you can, switch your plan?
Actually, I think that we are hoping not to, and we have some options on dates, different options, and we'll see what will happen until the end of the summer. So.
Okay, cool. Gala, what's up for your future couple of coming months? What are you planning on?
So I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm aiming to do a lot of streamed music gigs in the spring, and also probably in the beginning of summer, because I think that's going to be a bit tricky to have a live audience in the summer, maybe later in September or something like that. But I would do probably like a smaller version of my Ingrid festival, and it's like, I wouldn't say showcase, because it's established band, has like big artists in Sweden at least, and I think that the key is to make it unique, that you can't really reach this content in another way. If you're going to do a stream, maybe just limit the possibilities of being like in the audience, and even if it's possible, so then people would still be interested. I mean, if there's a really one of your favorite bands releases an album and does a live show or live streamed, I think you would watch that. And that's what we're aiming to do, a few of these, until we can do like in-person live shows.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Andy, Gran, and Kalle, for coming today here. And I hope that everyone's productions go well, even if they are live streamed. This is something that we have to live with. Or if you can do a physical production, well, that's another level currently. As Andy also said, there are things you have to think about. And as Granny said, there are plan A and B you have to think about. And Kalle mentioned a lot of good points about what you have to think about when doing even a live production. So thank you so much, everyone. So welcome everyone back. We are at our last panel, Reshaping the Live Music Industry, to discuss the future of live industry business models. And with us here today, we have three amazing people. First of all, I would like to introduce Jivar, who is a tech guy. So he's the founder and CEO of Digital, so a marketplace that connects artists with gigs. So second of all, we have Han here, who is the business development manager for Music Info, helping musicians to distribute, promote, and monetize from Chinese music market. And last but not least, we have Adriana, very well known in the event communication and marketing field. Also is the press manager for Catalan Music Venues Association. So welcome everyone to this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys.
Thank you. So first of all, I would really like to start with Adriana here. You were also associated with this campaign, Last Concert, which took over like the whole Spain, and then also Italians did it in Italy. So from like this event marketing point of view, what sort of channels or live streaming platforms are used that maybe were not used before the pandemic? So what have you seen that has like changed in how tech savvy are the promoters currently?
Well, we organized that campaign called El Último Concierto, which means the last concert in Spain, which had a huge impact in our audience, I think, and also in the media, in the press. So we basically used kind of simple. We just used a simple website. And also we organize like different videos of each venue that they participate, which they organized like a silence concert, which was the principal message of the campaign, because it was the situation of the music venues in Spain, because we were closed, and it was like kind of image for most of the Spanish venues in the future. You know, it was like a call to the administration to, hey, please, you have to do something, because it could be the future for our music venues.
And what was like the impact after you had this campaign, and after, well, it is a lockdown, but how are like the promoters and the ones who are like having these concerts, how like if you would compare having and using different platforms before like the pandemic and using them now. So what is it that promoters are like using, or how tech savvy are they, or what have you like seen that is like the technological change if we think of having smaller concerts or artist development still going on?
Well, I think that it's two different parts on your question. For example, if I focused on that campaign, the last show campaign, the promoters were really, really shocked, because they thought that we were organizing a real concert. So they tried to calling us like crazy, like, hey, I have these artists, I have to participate, I want this. And the concerts were in silence, you know. The most of the concerts was just the stage with the lights. And some of the venues were the musicians on the stage, but silence, you know, like not doing nothing. So it was like communicating was kind of difficult with the promoters, because we can't reveal that the concert will be in silence, because of course it was like the little big surprise at the end. So we thought we had to try to not reveal the surprise, and also to tell that we had all the artists booked and they cannot participate. And on the other hand, on the question, I think, for example, nowadays in Spain, the situation it's not so good for the venues, but we saw the law, we can open our doors with so many restrictions of the capacity of the venues and with no bars. And of course, it's really, really difficult for the music venues to program music and to get concerts. And at the beginning, we thought that maybe the streaming platforms, for example, can be used for one kind of hybrid concerts, because if you can just put in your music venues 100 people and your music venues is for 800 people, maybe you can sell the 100 of tickets that you can sell. And of course, you can maybe sell a cheaper ticket from a streaming platform, for example. That was what was kind of an option. But of course, it's really, really expensive to organize a streaming concert also. And the music industry in general, I think that it's so economically and mentally, of course, is really in a difficult right now. So if you have to try to organize that kind of concerts for that many, like 100, 500 people, and also you have to organize and pay for the streaming platforms and all the production for maybe selling tickets from, I don't know, maybe €5. You can sell a ticket. Maybe in Spain, the prices are a little bit low, but we know that the Spanish public, it's difficult for them to pay for a streaming concert because it has been difficult from the beginning. Not just from the pandemic, even from proofs before. And it's really difficult, I think, economically to make that kind of hybrid also for the music venues. It can be interesting because it could, of course, get a little bit of benefits from the music venues, from the artists, from the promoters, because of course you can sell more tickets. Not at the regular price, but you can at least sell more tickets. But I think that it's quite difficult, the situation right now, and the pandemic get a little bit worse maybe in that kind of a scenario.
That's a good point with the live streaming platforms like used before the pandemic. It wasn't easy then, but we're kind of forced to take these in currently and do our best with it. So Han, welcome. I wanted to ask you, because the situation in China is normalizing. People are having more like normal lives. I would really like to ask from like the Music Info's point of view. In Asia, there are like so many different like marketing models used that people in Europe haven't actually been using. If you think about artist development, then there are different challenges and things used. And if we think about the pandemic, then taking the use of live streaming platforms wasn't so wide before. It wasn't popular. Festivals kind of did it. They had like some sort of, footage from their festival. But let's be honest now, Europeans were kind of drawn back with all of the live streaming and all of these this platform usage. So what have you seen in Asia that maybe, I don't know, we could use during the pandemic as Europeans, like currently? What would you suggest or bring out?
Hi. About your question, I have to first say, like, even the situation is kind of back in normal in China. But like a year ago, at least for half year of 2020, the situation is in China is similar compared to the situation currently in Europe or in Western country. So there's also a lockdown back then. When you close, there's no way to host any live concert. So back then, what's happening coming is like online live performance, virtual performance. I think I'm not exactly sure how much effort the platform or the big players is putting effort in Western country. I have learned that the big record labels, Universal, Sony, they have invested in the virtual live concert companies, start to host live concert. It's same in China, but in China the platforms are also really active. The streaming services, like QQ Music, NetEase Music, they are similar service to Spotify. They moved really fast when the pandemic come back. Then they start to organize live concert for artists in China back then, and also for Western artists. So I would think this pandemic is a changing not only for artists but also for the big players, the platforms, the service providers. It's like a cooperation from my point of view. Artists want to have opportunities, and platforms provide opportunity to provide them technical support. And then artists can have some ways, some place to show themselves. And besides the streaming services, the social medias are also start to get active when there's no live house performance or festivals. They start to organize like Chinese Douyin, TikTok. They start to also organize this kind of live concert or live festival, live club, DJ, this kind of thing. I know it's also happening in West country, but in China, it's the same. Back then in China or in Asia, South Korea, it's the same thing. So I would think during this lockdown, it's really important, this kind of both sides cooperation. And afterwards, I would think this should be kept. It's a really good way for artists to promote themselves. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what would you also add on, if there are some sort of platforms in Asia that were used before the pandemic that, I don't know, in Europe people don't use? Are there some sort of I don't know, even virtual reality concerts or something really futuristic that we wouldn't see in Europe, but people in Asia are already doing, and we should maybe, do the same things?
I think platform-wise or technical-wise, there's not so big difference. It's just how active the platform would like to provide the support and opportunities for artists, and also how active artists want to do this.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Javar, so talking about artist bookings currently and the situation in Sweden, so I really wanted to ask, what do you see as the benefit for artist managers and promoters of all of this new technology that is emerging and being present in the industry?
That's a very good question. When the pandemic started, we started looking into streaming as well, almost I would say everybody else did. And my take our take from this is that if you're a solo artist that want to start streaming by yourself, you should start, not maybe go to the niche music streaming platforms, but instead go to the streaming platforms where the communities are already built, like Twitch, for example, which is more for gaming, but they have IRL streams, they have music streams, and that has grown more and more as well. And there you don't have to re-establish a community. You don't have to drag people in to come and watch my stream. You can slowly but surely build a community. And if you do it alone as a solo musician, and you start streaming maybe every day, where you start playing a little bit and you start communicating with your fans, I think there's a lot of benefits when it comes to streaming. But I find it very hard to motivate it financially to host large streams when you have BTS sold almost 1 million tickets to their live stream, which had the best production, it's going to cost you a lot of money to be able to invest in that kind of production and have people to actually enjoy a live stream concert, because it's not the same as you're sitting there face to face and you're experiencing the vibe of a live concert. So it has to be something out of the ordinary. And I would say, like, you either have to be like on the BTS level, you have to have those fans that are die hard, and you need to have that production that is above all the rest, or you just need to have start building relationship with your fans, start streaming and talking to your fans. Maybe if it's only on your Instagram live, maybe have the fans request songs and stuff like that. That is kind of my take on when it comes to the live streaming, when it comes to, because in the end it's something that you need to financially gain from as well, because everyone right now has been looking outside of like traditional income to see how can we support our business, how can we support our career as a musician. Live is usually where they gain the most of their income. What can I do now to still not only stay relevant but also be able to pay my bills as well? So that is my take on a little bit on the digital streaming, because we looked into it and I just felt like, first of all, the competition is hard. How can we ever compete with, if Lady Gaga wants to throw a concert tomorrow, why would people ever not want to see that when the production is probably going to be great? So that's why we stayed away from live streaming, even though we tried to investigate and try to kind of test it out for a couple of months. But we were like, no, this is going to cost too much, or it's not going to cost enough, and it's going to be really bad, and nobody's really going to enjoy this, and nobody's really going to gain anything from this either. But that didn't answer your question. What was your question to me again?
Good one. Good question, Joe. Live stream is, I have to say, it is difficult. There is a lot of noise. It's like there is this like benefit of having a concert, and then you could have audience from anywhere across the world. But you have 365 days per year. You have 24 hours. You have work. You have everything. So you're really competing with having this one date, this one thing going on. But the real question is like how to use effectively this new tech and new digital alternatives that we have. Like you tested some of the things out, as you said. Is there like anything in particular that you saw that was maybe useful with the test, for instance?
It's still a thesis. I think what would be very useful is for venues that want to have set dates where they have concerts. Now I'm talking post-pandemic, when everything hopefully is back to normal, and hopefully we've come to grow more accustomed to live streaming gigs. In that case, I think venues can use the venue on all the hours when there is actually no one there and there's no concert there. They can use that venue then for live streaming gigs as well, just to maximize the number of hours that they can actually sell tickets or have activities, as well as restaurants and bars. They might be able to drag people, or smaller venues, they might be able to drag people there on a Friday and Saturday for them to come and enjoy music. All the other days they could be able to have like a live stream type of gig type of thing where you use the venue. But I mean, all of this costs money. It is still an investment. It is still, you need to have the equipment. You need to have, if the production is bad, it's unbearable to watch. It's not like you just walk into a venue and you're like, I can't see well, so I'll just move 5 meters that way and maybe I can see better. If you are only watching one thing, one angle, and if the angle is bad, the production is bad, that is going to ruin the entire experience. So it's hard to be an amateur and also be able to pull off with the live streaming things. But I really think that that there is a possibility for people that know what they're doing to be able to capitalize a lot on this, because you can, if people have grown accustomed more to live streaming gigs and enjoy it, then you can really start, just having more and more activities in your venue during the hours that it's usually just a downtime, more or less.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. Like there is this usability issues basically that depend on how good the production is, how well you think through that. You don't have like an audience to work with. You have like these technical assets, but there is definitely like this behavioral change within the audience. So people are kind of expecting to have an access 24/7 from their like home computer. Basically, they don't even maybe want to go anywhere when they have the ability to do so. So when you have a meeting with your partner in a company, then I don't think you today even ask whether it's a physical or virtual like meeting. Everyone knows that a meeting means literally that you're in Zoom having a meeting. So as far as like going with the benefits, there is like a curve that you need to go through to go over that benefit, to get to the benefits, but it's possible. Adriana, would you like to comment on it?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a thing. Here in Catalonia or in Spain at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of musicians start. I think that it was the different countries in Europe. Artists start to streaming to get concerts on their social media, like really regular. But of course, I think the situation was totally different at the reality. Everybody was at home. These streamings were on Facebook or Instagram TV, so they are mostly for free. And the artists wanted to play. The artists wanted to get close to their community, to their fans. The artists get to make like a good action for the people, no, to try to distract to everybody, to try to get some nice content forget the pandemic or the lockdown a little bit better for everyone. So it was, I think, a really nice natural movement or tendency. I don't know the exactly word, but of course it was that kind of situation, the lockdown or the pandemic situation. But I think I don't know exactly how to mix it or how to survive that kind of concert or experience during the non-pandemic life, which all of us want to recover as soon as possible. And of course, the experience was you didn't have no opportunity to get that kind of content if it wasn't from a screen, because everybody was at home. But of course, when the real life or the non-pandemic life came back again, the people can go to concerts, the venues will hopefully reactivate their lives, and the artists, the concerts, the productions will come back, as I hope, as we know it before the pandemic. So I don't know. I think that we can, or we have to think about that kind of actions in one specific period of the human history. I think that was just my word.
Sure. I wanted to also ask on like these live streaming platforms that are used currently because of the pandemic in the Asian market. How popular is it to actually go to a live stream concert? Like, let's say before the pandemic, was it something that was popular and used by artists a lot?
Before, actually, I don't think it's super popular because we have to be honest, like the live concert, this concept is pretty new. It's not like streaming. It has been 10 years. It's pretty mature. Live concert is just a new idea. People just start to try it before the pandemic. And I would think the pandemic is really pushing to this technology and this industry. Like, we have to do it now. Otherwise, how can all the musicians, the live venue, the festival promoter, how can they survive? So it's a push for this industry, and it's still growing. And for your question, I did a small background research. There's one research from a Chinese consulting name is iMedia Research. It shows like by the first half year of 2020, there's 80 million users have watched the live concert in China, because back then it's completely locked down. So I have to say it's pretty big amount, and it's pretty good number for the starting stage for this live concert industry or business.
Thank you. So Jivari would also like to comment on it.
Yeah, so it's amazing. 80 million people have watched live streamed concerts. It is absolutely amazing. My question is though, how many will continue after the pandemic? It is, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm having a hard time motivating why I would watch a live stream gig when I never even thought that I would do it before the pandemic, because it wouldn't give me the satisfaction that I get from actually going live and watching something, being there. And so I'm the only reason I would watch a live stream music type of performance or activity would be if there's someone that I'm a big fan of that would have something that is a little bit more personal. Like my favorite artist would have something when it's almost like a radio show, but it's live stream where they talk and they would play music and they would talk in between the songs, maybe tell a story about how they came up with the song and interact with their fans. And I know that some of that existed before the pandemic, and I'm sure that there is a market for that as well. If I was a musician, I would definitely explore that. But the investment in large live stream gigs that is digital, I'm having a hard time motivating that just financially and time wise. I hope I'm wrong, because in that case, maybe like Burning Man or like a big festival can also sell digital like tickets, and they would be able to earn so much more commission, and it would be a good financial business for everyone involved. But probably the artist would earn from that as well. But I'm having a hard time just motivating that.
Adriana, what do you think?
Well, I just wanted to add a little thing, because I think that, for example, when we are talking about streaming concerts during the pandemic, or these kind of streaming concerts that artists made on their social media and all that stuff, the public and the audience get really happy to have that kind of content, because it was for free. And the quality of that kind of streamings were not on the debate, because it was a free content. It was streaming directly from the artists. They were streaming directly from their publics or their audiences to try to help them during this lockdown or whatever. And this was not the kind of discussion about the quality, for example. It was with a mobile phone or with a computer, and everybody was, it was comprehension that it was like this, because there was no more resources. And they are doing their best, but of course, when the situation will change, and we will try to get that kind of streamings from music live concerts in live venues or in stadiums or wherever, or festivals or whatever. Of course, the quality, for example, if you are paying for that concert and it's like a streaming concert announced, like a streaming concert of your favorite band or whatever. For example, the audience will, of course, demand a high quality streaming, because if you are trying to enjoy that concert, not being in that place personally, and you are trying to kind of humanize that kind of experience of the streaming, you have to get so a high quality of sound, filming and production and everything. So I think that's not the same, and it's not easy to get that kind of good streaming or possible streaming for real concerts to get monetized for the artists or venues or promoters or
whatever. That's a good point. But just earlier we were talking about how the industry is changing, like the investments are going, into this live streaming platforms, and they are like these rising stars currently helping us, through this. Although yes, there are like thousands of problems with it, from the earlier panel, from copyrights to everything else. And the question is that people are putting like so many resources currently worldwide into establishing this kind of a new industry that is live streamed. So the question really is kind of like, how can we keep these tools relevant in the long term, and should we keep this around in the long term, or within 9 months maybe we somehow vaccinate the whole earth, and then the investments and everything are just pointless. Gerard?
I think I'm a firm believer that in the very near future, when vaccination has moved forward and restrictions has let go, it's almost like we would never want to look at a screen again. To be honest, I think that people are starving for human interaction, live human interaction. I think that people are missing, just like the environment of being somewhere where it's noisy. Everything that we wanted to hide from before, we just really have like this hunger that we want to experience all of that. And I think that is something that is going to be lasting for a long time. We like the 1920s, which was called the Roaring 20s, when after depression and after everything, people are just partying for a decade. I don't know if it's going to be a decade, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a while before we actually would say that, no, tonight let's sit in and watch this live stream concert. I'm having a hard time. I'm sounding so negative, but I'm having a hard time, justifying that. I am a very firm believer that we will want to go out and experience even more. I think it's in our nature, and that is why we're looking more into like what is the market that is emerging post-pandemic. I think experiences is going to be a part of almost everything in our day-to-days. I think that even retail is going to be more experience-based. It's not just going to go in, grab a shirt and walk out. It's going to be more activities, more experience in those spaces. It's going to be more activities and more experiences in restaurants, in bars, in all the other smaller venues, in office spaces. We're finding more and more like office spaces merging with other type of activities to create like these hubs for people and these communities for people. And I think that is something that is going to accelerate because of the pandemic. And I think that is what the investments will end up in after the pandemic.
So basically, the music industry doesn't work without having the live industry. So if we take that block out, everything like crumbles. And basically, there is no way that could we revive the industry without having proper live industry. There are like so many discussions around also like live industry not working the best way, being a creative industry, not having the best creative solutions here. So live streaming will probably not be the sufficient, solution here, and we have to move forward from here. And this, let's remind ourselves that this probably will not be our last pandemic, unfortunately. So we kind of have to be ready for this step of acknowledging ourselves that we can't have a music industry with just, live industry carrying it. And if we take this block away, everything just crumbles down. So the real question is that what solutions or business models should we be thinking then? Yes, the pandemic goes over, but in 12 years, the same thing will be happening. So what should we be looking into? What should we really make better, either in the live industry, in the industry itself, or what solutions do we have to start programming today? Adriana, anything on that? Or Adriana, if you mind, I'll give the hand to Jar, of course.
Okay, sorry for stealing the question there. I agree with you that so first of all, the live music industry, there's so much that is wrong with it, and it's but there's so much that is right with it. The experiences and the feeling that it gives to the audience is something that is not a lot of stuff can compare to that. However, the industry itself has a lot of issues, and it's not well democratized. It's not accessible for every artist or not. So I think that it is one of the few industries that you look at and you feel like nothing has been innovated in this industry for 60 years. If you look at the other side, if you're not looking at live, a lot of stuff has been happening with streaming platforms, with Spotify, with distribution. There are a lot of tools for artists, for agents, for managers, and everyone to become more professional, work more professionally. I think that the investment should be in making the live music industry more accessible, more democratized, and also more professional for the ones that actually work within it. And that is, for example, for artists to gain more control over their own career, be able to take more control and not having to, for example, like the government granted support for the artists for all the contracts that were canceled because of the pandemic, but it turned out the majority of artists don't even have contracts signed for their gigs, so they couldn't get any support. That is mind-boggling. How does that happen? Does that happen in any other industry? This industry is very unprofessional, and we have a couple of, maybe possibly like gatekeepers that make it seem more unprofessional because that's where they earn their margin, or that's where their expertise come in play. I think that we should invest more in tools that help everyone in this industry become more professional, and there is so much space for innovation within the live music industry. And I think that when the pandemic ends, I think that live music is going to have like record years to come. As I said before, I think people are just longing to be out experiencing music live for the first time in a long time. And I think that therefore also the need for these type of innovations are going to come kind of organically. And I think that we might see like a live music tech boom in the coming years, like the music tech boom we've had the past 15 years.
Good point. Adriana, do you have anything to add? What do you think is like where should we be looking at? Where should we move with this live industry, even like after the pandemic? We have to kind of be ready that this could all happen again.
Well, I don't know. I think that it's kind of difficult question. I don't know. I think I'm really agree with Jabbar. I think, for example, for the artists and the musicians, is really difficult because I don't know, here in Spain, for example, to be an artist is not really considered like a real job. Of course, most artists cannot live just for playing music, which is quite sad, I think. But of course, it's that kind of industry. So I think that the problem is, it's really, really. I don't know if we can resolve it, in a 1 hour panel. I think that it's a really, really difficult conversation to have. But of course, here some music venues had also different problems to get some public financial from the pandemic situation, which it's more or less the same problem all the time, which is the professionalism of the industry. But also here we have a specific university studies about music industry, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of weird situation, because of course I think that the big industries managed still from people that I don't know, that managed the big companies from too many years ago. But of course there are some young people, I don't know, who just started maybe 10 years or 5 years ago on the music industry, which had their own studies, they're not just university studies, also masters and post degrees specialized in music industry, which are trying to get more professional the industry. But of course, I don't know, it's not it's a big problem, I think, which it's not can be resolved in, I don't know, in less years. It's like I don't know. It's a big debate. I think to have.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, definitely. Han, seeing where the Chinese market is evolving, are there any tips or tricks, or where should the European market also evolve when we think about these new technologies and things as such? What should we be looking out for? What could we learn from the Asian market, or what could be, used in the next pandemic?
I would think maybe to say learn from Asian market is not so proper way because it's as what I think is still this is pretty new technique, pretty new business model, this live concert. I'm just thinking, but even after the pandemic, I would support to still keep the virtual concert, live concert, because I would think the live concert itself, the online one, offline one, they are not conflict at all. It's just how the technology can lead us in this innovation, in this new business model. Like Tibor said, the investment is huge. Nowadays, the technology is so expensive, especially for the small venue, small live house. I would think how this currently huge investment and the technology can help with them, because if we discuss big record label or big artist, we don't have to worry about their investment, because they will have the way to get their investment back from the offline concert, from the online concert. The thing is for small artists, for independent artists, how can this technology become cheaper, or how can these live concert help them if they can get enough sponsor, or they can sell the tickets to get benefit. That is the thing I think the whole industry or this live concert, virtual concert need to consider how they can get benefit from there.
Definitely. Jivar, anything to add in here?
I really think that as a small artist, it's not about producing a good production for your live stream. I think that it's enough that you just have your phone and you record yourself and you stream that, and you make it more personal towards the fans. We've seen this in gaming for the last 10 years. Now, streaming in gaming is huge, even though everyone that is watching the streams can basically just log into the game and play the game themselves. They rather watch that because they look up to that person, they enjoy the content, the person is engaging with their fans, they're adding, if it's comedic effect, if it's just personal stuff, it is something that we just are drawn to and we want to watch that. And I think as a small artist, you don't have to have the type of production that you would expect Live Nation to have on a live streaming gig. It is more just pick up your phone, start recording yourself, start building a community, and in the end you will, if you have a platform where you're reaching, first of all, streaming is very engaging. People that are watching the streams are commentating, they're very engaged in the content that you're providing them. And so sponsors want to be able to, they want to be shown in that context. You might not be able to sell tickets straight away to those productions, but you might just build a fan base where you can earn money on other stuff in other ways. And also, it's, as a small musician, it's very important to build all your platforms equally. You're building your live platform, you're building your Instagram, your social medias, your Spotify, and just having fans engage with you. And that could be seen as a compliment. They could see as another platform where I'm engaging more and more with my fans, and it's building more of a relationship with my fans. So I think that smaller artists have an easier way to connect with. It's easy, and I think it's cheap for them to be able to do these type of activities when it comes to live stream gigs. I think as a corporation, it's hard to earn money from it, but as a small artist, I think that it's a very viable type of platform to invest your time in.
Adriana, would you like to add?
Yeah, I was just wanted to add that, for example, that kind of I was agree with everything that you said. But for example, for emerging artists or small artists, I think that it's really interesting to, for example, or for all the artists to have their social medias, which was something like maybe 20 years ago. It was if you tell somebody 10 years or 15 years ago that maybe you can watch Beyonce talking to you in a screen like, hey guys, and today I'm doing blah, blah, blah. It was like they blown their minds, you know? So this is a real good way to get engaged with your audience, with your public. And of course, that kind of streamings can build that community through your social media. But did they get money from that streamings? Because of course it was at the beginning of the debate. For me, that kind of streamings, it makes sense if you get it for free, for example, in your Facebook platform or your Instagram TV or in a direct message or something like that. And of course, maybe people, or I think that maybe people can pay, or they are more comfortable to pay from a streaming, of course, made with some kind of quality. And maybe for bigger artists like, I don't know, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, or wherever, not, I don't know, maybe a local band which organize the concert in a 50 or 100 persons venue, and maybe they will sell the half of the tickets, and the other half of the crowd will be their families and their friends and their girlfriends, boyfriends, or whatever. So I think that kind of streamings make sense in social media for their communities from free content, and I think that it's great. But I don't know if if it has sense for paying for that streamings. I don't know if I explained me.
I'll give over to Jivar here. I see he has something to say.
I completely agree with you, Adriana. But once again, I feel like the music industry is looking at how the music industry has been working. They're expecting ticket sales for streams. The gaming industry has been working with streaming, and it's one of the most beneficial parts of the gaming industry. There is so much money and transaction going around because of the streaming world, and nobody is paying for the content. The streaming platforms have ad revenue, which they share with the content creator. So if you're a content creator and you're streaming and you show ads on your stream, you get revenue from that. And they also have subscription-based models. So if you subscribe to, for example, an artist, then on a streaming platform, it might cost the user like $5 a month to subscribe, and the artists get like 50%. It's a 50% commission split between the streaming platform and the artist itself. So there are other ways, and they can motivate, like subscribe to my channel because on Sundays I'm having like a subscription only sing along where everyone that's subscribed and me are going to sing songs together and stuff like that. But the thing I've seen from a lot of streaming platforms and when traditional music companies have reached out to me to talk about streaming is that they expect that people are going to pay almost full ticket price for a stream gig. And it's not something that is going to happen if the production isn't amazing. Like it has to be out of this world. It almost has to be better on like if it's offline than online. So there's other ways to earn money for an artist that is not just ticket sales, because the audience, you're absolutely right, Adriana, nobody wants to pay, especially for lower artists. Like they expect that content to be free. So the other way for the artist to actually gain money from that.
I wish Beyonce was doing these sing-alongs. I would pay for that. Adriana, anything to add?
Yeah. Just a little thing. If we focus on the gamer streamings, and of course their kind of streamings are working for them because their natural side is from a screen, and you are watching people who are playing video games, and you are playing video games through a screen. But of course, the natural scene of a music venue or of a music concert, it's not through a screen. We are live music concerts. We have to be there, the sound, people socializing, falling in love, or dancing, or screaming, singing. Everything happens on that event. So I think that it's not exactly the same. I get your point, but I think that it works because they are used to see that kind of content through a screen, and they are living that streamings in their natural platforms or natural, I don't know, platforms maybe. So I think that it's not the same from music industry.
So basically what we can say as a conclusion from today is actually that we can't reshape the live industry while having a pandemic, and these live streaming concerts, these are a good way, but these are not like the definition of the live industry, and they cannot be. But at the same time, we should all remember, as well as any like physical store probably had a shock when the pandemic came. They didn't have any like this online or e-store or anything as such. It's very important to use these new emerging business models as well as possible. And as Jivar was actually bringing out different business models from the gaming industry, it's something that we can use, but maybe our technology is just not there, because 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have social media. We didn't even have these beautiful phones with a touch screen. We didn't have any of that. So we can only hope, and actually not even hope, we should work on the fact that if we have a pandemic next time, we hope that this one goes over fast, then we would have something to work with. But there are like many things that we need to work on, and it's not a definite business model that it's very new. It has been only alive for a year. There are copyright issues and all of that, but we have to take it in and use it and see how well we can use it as a complementary business model maybe after the pandemic. And yes, we have to innovate this industry a lot more. We are creatives. We should do as much as possible to actually have this industry in the shape that in next year, when things are, going better, when we have this industry coming in, that we would have, that we would have an area or a place or an industry which is better than what we have currently. So I'm really hoping that in the next pandemic, we do have future business models, we do have future technology for it. But thank you so much, Adriana, Jivar, and Han, for coming and being in our panel. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Hello, Neveli here, back for a bit, the last seconds. I wanted to really thank you for being us this evening. And I also wanted to let you know that Rider Day 2022 free tickets are available in Eventbrite already. So please go sign up. What will the Rider Day bring us then? What will be the format? How we'll do it? We don't know yet, but you can write to us, team@readline.com, and let us know what you would like to see or what topics you would like to hear during the next Rider Day. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.